Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. We're doing another reviews and ratings episode where I review and rate all the different games I've been playing in the past 2 weeks with friends, family, and even solo. Today I've got 9 different things I'm going to be reviewing, and we're going to start with my least favorite and go to my favorite. We're going to start with something that I'm not even going to rate because it's not really much of a game, more of an activity. But after that, we're starting with my least favorite, going to my favorite. Going to give a quick overview of the game, give a quick review, then a final rating for that game. We're going to try to go through this relatively quickly. We're going to start with Mystery Tonic's 1 Minute Mysteries. This is a small deck of cards basically that have 100 different little riddles on them, and they take literally about 1 minute to do. In this, there is a paragraph that you're going to read this paragraph. After that, there's going to be a question. You ask the people a question that pertains to that paragraph. It's basically a little riddle. If they can't get it, there's a couple different clues on the bottom. Then if someone gets it, they're supposed to get that card. And you're supposed to go through that until someone gets 5 cards and they win. We didn't even play the game. We just went through and did the little riddles because they're fun little riddles. They're very quick, very fast. I spent an afternoon doing this with my son and my sister. I spent an afternoon doing this with my girlfriend. I brought it to work. Some other people at work were doing it. It's a fun little activity, basically just 100 different riddles on it that are fast and pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And I think I bought it at the Mall of America for $6 or $7, so I definitely think it's worth it. I'm not going to give it a rating. I enjoyed it. If you like riddles, you might want to check it out. So that's Mystery Tonic's 1 Minute Mysteries. Starting with the actual game now. This is the Grimwood. The Grimwood is actually a deck of cards. It's just a small deck of cards game, and it's got that grim, dark theme to it, almost like Brothers Grimm. And in this game, you are going to be drawing cards either from a deck or from other people, and then you're going to be playing cards and making sets of these different cards. There are these supernatural cards that are going to have some kind of ability on them. You're going to try to make sets of those. You're trying to make sets of animals, which are like owls and crows. There are sets of pathways that you're trying to lay down. And these other cards, I think they're called supernatural cards. I can't remember what they are called. But when you do them, they have some kind of ability on them, and they're going to do things. And it's a very mean take-thatty game. Even when you're drawing cards, you don't have to draw a card from the deck. You can just draw a card from a player. So in this game, you never have to draw a card from the deck if you want to. You just have other people draw, and you can draw from their hand. And that's one of the reasons I don't really like this game at all. It's going to get a 5 rating. I'm not a fan of this game. It is fast. It's think of this as a very spooky version of Go Fish, but with a lot of take that and mean stuff. And a lot of times your set collection of stuff is going to be taken away or just thrown away. And there's just so much take that in a small, simple game. And you think it's fast, so it usually wouldn't bother me. But this game, the fact that you can just draw cards from other people's hands, I don't really like anything about this game, to be honest. So yeah, it's going to get a 5 rating. So the Grimwood gets a 5. Going to the next game. The next game is Scream the Game, which is based on the movie Scream, and it is an app-assisted game. It's a real-time game, and it's in this game, Ghostface, the killer from Scream, is going to be calling you on this app. You have to put in all the different players that are playing, and Ghostface might be calling those individual players. This is a very hectic game. You are trying to complete different objectives, and the objectives you have to turn in certain symbols. So on your turn, you're either going to draw a card or take a card and give a card to another player. And you're just doing this as fast as you can, trying to complete these objectives. Ghostface might be calling, and he might call, it's like Ghostface is calling Shane. And Ghostface says, well, you need to turn in 3 DVD symbols or else I'm going to kill you. And then, he hangs up, and then in a minute or so, random time, he's going to call back. And if you don't have those to turn in for him, he's going to kill you and you lose the game. It's very hectic, very chaotic. You're just trying to go as fast as you can. This game's going to get a 6 rating. It's better than what I thought it was, but it reminds me of a different game that I enjoy much, much more. I'd rather play 5 Minute Marvel any day of the week. That's what this game reminds me of, just a worse version of it. And yeah, so it's 6 rating. It's fine, but it's not going to be one that I'm going to recommend to play. But you might want to play it during a Halloween season, I suppose. Going to the next one. The next one is a small button shy game. This is Super Slopes. So button shy makes these 18 card wallet sized games. In this game, you're going to be drafting cards from this column and putting them into your own, trying to make your own slope of cards, trying to make your best run with these slopes. These cards have different runs on them. You're trying to connect the best runs that you possibly can, and you're trying to connect all the same types of gems. You're going to score one of the gem types on your best run that you make. You're going to score points for if your run ever crisscrosses with the run itself again. You're going to score points if on your run you go from a higher card to a lower card. So if you have the 10 card, it goes onto the 8 card. You're going to score points for that. You're going to get negative points if you run through a Sasquatch person. It's a simple drafting game, and it's going to get a 6.5. I enjoy it, but it's not going to be one of my favorite solo button shy games. I played it like 8 or 9 times, and for a game that costs $15, I think it's worth it, but it's not. After 8 or 9 times that I played it, I'm kind of done with it now. So it's 6.5. I think it's a solid game, especially for an 18 card little deck of cards. So 6.5 for Super Slopes. Going on to the next game. The next game I've actually reviewed just a couple weeks ago in a solo review of just that game, a more in-depth review. This is Expeditions, and I'm just going to do a little shorter review for people who didn't watch that. And in Expeditions is the sequel to Scythe from Stonemaier Games. Scythe is one of my all-time favorite games, so I was excited about this. In this game, you have the big giant mechs like you do in Scythe, but these are bigger actually, and you're going to be moving along these tiles doing different things. Each turn, you're going to do 2 actions for the most part, and the different actions are moving, playing a card, or gathering. When you gather, you just do the action of that tile that you're on. When you play, you're just playing a card from your hand and activating their special abilities. You're managing resources. Each turn, you're going to do 2 of these things, because each turn you have to cover up a action. So if you moved and played a card this turn, you had the gather action covered up. So next turn, you have to move that off the gather action and move it onto either move or play, and you're going to not be able to do that action next turn. And so it's just kind of like this efficiency card game. And that's what it is, basically, to me, is it's a neat card game that's overproduced. And it's going to get a 7 rating. I enjoy this game. It takes a little bit longer than what I wish it would, but I think it's still a solid game that's just in a bigger box than it needs to be. This could have been a $30 simple card game. Instead, it's a $70 game that looks really nice, but it feels the game doesn't feel like what it looks like to me. And maybe that hurts a little bit more, but it's around a 7.5, so it's still a good, solid game. Going to the next game. The next game is Forbidden Jungle, which is the 4th game in the Forbidden series. First we had Forbidden Island, then Forbidden Desert, then Forbidden Skies, and now Forbidden Jungle. I like the first 2 games in the series. Didn't like Forbidden Skies at all. Most people didn't. They're very simple cooperative games, and this is another simple cooperative game in this series. And you have a bunch of tiles. Each turn, you are going to have 4 actions that you can do. And you can move to a different tile, you can reveal a tile, you can use a machine, because some of the tiles are machines, and those machines are going to do different things like blow up tiles or move tiles. And your objective in this game is to get all 4 different crystals surrounding a portal, and then everybody needs to be on that portal, and then you escape. But there are bad things happening in this game. There are these eggs that turn into hatchlings. The hatchlings turn into adults, and they're like big giant spidery things. And these big adults are going to be going into your tile and stinging you, and each player has a certain amount of health, and if you die, you lose the game. And it's a fun game that I really enjoy. It's going to get a 7.5 rating. The reason why it doesn't go higher is because this is a very unpredictable game. It's hard to manage this game. You can lose out of nowhere, because if you ever run out of like adults or hatchlings and you need to put them out there, you lose the game. And it can happen like out of nowhere. It's like all of a sudden, oh, all the eggs turn into hatchlings, all the hatchlings now turn into adults, and all the adults are going to move, and if they go into your spot, they sting you, and you die. And it's like, because after 4 actions, you're always going to flip over these cards that are going to do bad things. Very Pandemic-ish in that sense. but it's very hard to predict in this game. So you just try to manage the best you possibly can. But even if you're doing really good, out of nowhere, you can lose this game very, very quickly. And that hurts it a little bit for myself. But it's fast enough where it doesn't matter that much, but it does bring the score down just a little bit. So 7.5 for Forbidden Jungle. Going to the next game. The next game is a big, giant, heavy Euro game. This is the #1 game on BGG for the last several months. This is Brass Birmingham. This is very much a Euro-style game. You are building out your network, building out like a route building game. You are managing your money and your resources. You are building these buildings, and these buildings are going to use these resources that you have to be connected to in order to use those. And it's such a big, heavy Euro, rules-heavy game. This is going to get an 8 rating from myself. This is such a good game itself, but there's so many rules to this game, so many exceptions, tiny exceptions to the rules. Like, oh, you can do it in this phase, in the canal phase, but in the railroad phase, then you have to do it differently. Or that you can use the beer that's connected to you, but if it's not connected to you and you own that beer, you can use it, but other people can't. Or there's little exceptions to all these different rules. This is one of those games that if you have repeat plays of Brass Birmingham, it's really going to reward you. But I don't personally own Brass Birmingham, and this was only the second time I've played it, and I played it a couple years apart. So take that, this is a second impression sort of for me. I really enjoy it, but it's too hard of a game for me to get into if I'm not playing it a lot. It's very fun, very thinky. Your brain's going to hurt after each play of this. Fun game. 8 rating for Brass Birmingham. Going to the next game, we go from a big heavy Euro game to a very light game. This is Ecosystem Savanna. And Ecosystem Savanna is the 3rd game in the Ecosystem line of games. There was regular Ecosystem, then Ecosystem Coral Reef, and now Ecosystem Savanna, which is just different settings basically. And in this game, it is a drafting game where you're going to place these cards into a grid. And these cards are then going to score different ways depending on the card. A lot of it is adjacency, like this card's going to score 3 points if it's adjacent to grasslands and stuff like that. But each round, there's 2 rounds, you're going to be drafting 10 cards to put into this grid. So you're going to take a card, place it in your grid, and pass them. And it's very thinky of how you want to place these cards. And you're hoping this card will come in so that you can place that card there to make a perfect like scoring system for you. I really like these systems of games. I think I gave Ecosystems an 8 when it came out. Ecosystem Coral Reef, I gave a 7.5 because I liked it a little bit less. This one goes back to the regular Ecosystem because I think I just like how the scoring works in this one a little bit more. I like than in Coral Reef. It's very similar to the original Ecosystem. So it's going to get an 8 rating as well. These are some of the games where you don't need more than one of these Ecosystem games. Look at them, see which one looks the most interesting to you, and buy that one. You don't need the other ones because they're so similar. They use the same system in all of the games. Drafting cards, placing them into a grid, and then scoring cards based on adjacency rules. But a fun little card game. Going to our last game of this week, this is Star Wars, the Deckbuilding Game. Terrible generic name, in my opinion, but this game is pretty solid. This is a 2-player only deck building battling game. It's very much built on the Star Realms system. You are going to have a market of cards that you can buy from and put those cards into your deck, building out your deck to become better. But in this game, one player plays as the Empire side and one player plays as the Rebel side. If you are the Empire, you can only buy Empire cards or neutral cards. You can't buy the Rebel cards. What you can do is you can destroy those Rebel cards that are in the center market area if you spend your attack value. And there's basically buying power and attack power, just like in Star Realms. So if you spend your attack power on killing these cards in the market area, that card's going to go away, but you're going to get some kind of bonus for killing it. And another thing that I really like is these bases in this one. So how you win is destroying the other person's base 4 times. And each time your base gets destroyed, you pick out a new base from this deck of cards, and each of these bases has their own special unique ability. It could be an ongoing effect, or it could be like an immediate effect that you just get one time. And these bases have really powerful, cool abilities on them. And that's why one of the reasons why I like this so much more than Star Realms is because of that. And so this game is going to get an 8 rating. It's somewhere between an 8, 8.5. I really like the game. I think one of the things that brings this game down, I've had one game of this where I was playing as the Rebel side, and none of the Rebel cards were coming out. It was all just Empire cards, and that just can't happen. So like I couldn't even like buy any cards from the market area, other than once in a while. I'll be like, oh, there's one of mine finally. I'll buy it quick before the other person destroys it. So my whole game was just destroying the other person. But even then, the game was very close still. He was getting all those cards, but I was just concentrating on destroying his base because I couldn't get any of my cards. So it was still close. It was just not as fun for me because I didn't get to build a cool deck as much as I wanted to. But still, it's probably in my top 10 deck building games now, instantly, right in there. Better than Star Realms, but using the same simple system. Very streamlined deck building game. So yeah, 8 rating for Star Wars, the deck building game. That will conclude this reviews and ratings episode. Make sure to comment down below some of your thoughts on some of these games. If you played them, if you haven't, if you agree with me, either way, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care.